Good, JD?
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay, would you mind doing a quick roll call for us?
Sure, we have Kate Bocalant is here,
Here.
Megan Wicks, Kathy Grant, is not here, Arika Kalwara, Valerie Musciano, Sarah Thompson, hopefully virtually, and Christopher Wilson is absent. Also, Mr. Burrows, Mrs. Suffoletto, and Miss Dr. Johnson, sorry.
Yes.
And sorry, and our select woman Tracy. So
Raise hand. Okay, as we do every board meeting, I will now announce our mission statement. The Voluntown Board of Education's mission is to provide our students the skills essential to reach their highest potential in a safe environment for learning. They aspire to become responsible, respectful, civic-minded members of society. We commit to help educate, challenge, and inspire each child to excel as lifelong learners who can adapt constructively in an ever-changing, multicultural, and technological world. Okay. Now, I know we have a guest, Ms. Hanson, but do we have any citizens' comments?
no, none were received.
Comments yet? Okay, wonderful. Well, we have a just briefly. What'd you say?
Sorry, I had a meeting, I have to leave right after this, because I have a meeting over in the library, but I dropped Julie off over there, and she's like, no one's here, so.
Oh.
She's just sitting over there.
Yeah. Without further ado, time spent. Tracy Henson, our guest, can we do that right away? Can we have Tracy?
Yes, because she's a guest and,
Yeah.
We have, safety Route 138 as old business. So if we take a vote to move that to the guest thing, we could do that right now.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries to move item number 5 on old business to the guest speakers.
Adam invited me to give an update on where things were going with the traffic signs on 138. It was quite a process to submit the request. I did it back in September. I had to put in a request for a speed limit change and a school zone. And I submitted all the paperwork and I have not heard back yet. I did email them last week to see if they had any updates, and I have not heard anything yet. So I don't know how long the process is to get a speed limit change and a school zone like approved. But I'll keep looking to see how far, like when they'll be ready. So that's all I have for that.
I think someone mentioned last time, I cannot take an idea about if it would be helpful for citizens to email, or is anyone particular in order to
Right.
get those.
We were wondering if we could maybe put something out on, at the very least, send something out to the Board of Ed, so we can personally, but maybe if you think it'd be helpful, put something on the town page of like, even the contact information, so that we can all, as concerned citizens, also.
I haven't been able to find out who the person to actually talk to is yet, because the person that I was working with got promoted to a different section, and he had given me someone else to talk to, but they are not, I don't know if they're still there, so.
Okay,
The
can you share that contact information?
Yeah, if I get an actual person, I can,
Right,
right?
even a department, even.
The department?
DOT, but
It's
there's.
it's OSTRA, the Ocean, something State Traffic Authority. I don't remember what the O stands for.
Yeah.
Something.
Special deputy.
Yeah. It stands for something, but it's OSTRA. It's an OSTRA email. It's just like the general, it's where all the applications are sent and all the stuff is going. So that's the one I've been corresponding with. I can find email for people to reach out to, because that one doesn't seem to be going anywhere.
Okay. Yeah, I just think there's a lot of citizens that would like to maybe either send an email or make a phone call just to kind of help.
Because that's just to push it along. Seriously, it's
Yeah.
been September, so
Right.
it hasn't even been 6 months, and for the state to do anything in under 6 months is probably a miracle, but.
Yeah.
But I will see if there's anyone to get in touch with, or even to send residents to. That might be a completely different person for that. Yeah. I don't know if there's anything else.
No, it was interesting. One of our policies we're currently reviewing, there is even like a little section on, safety of the school, just, transportation safety, and it's the wellness committee, so it's like keeping kids well, including their safety, and one of it was like the roads nearby the school, and I was like, wow, doesn't that tie in nicely, like, but make sure that it's just, it's in every one of our policies to make sure that kids are safe, and
Right.
it's like, it takes so much effort to try
I
to.
like that policy and.
I know.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because that it probably would be helpful to have anything to forward along,
Yeah.
or any kind of documentation of policies or anything, just to like push them along.
Yeah,
So
so
that-
we put that person's name.
Yeah,
So it doesn't go into a dry hole.
Yeah.
Like DOT
right.
and
It's weird because the DOT has all these sections, and the traffic authority is the one that's in charge of the speed limits and the zoning, so. And they're like a dead end place. So. If it was like engineering or anything like that, I have contacts, so I might even reach out to just some random DOT people and see if they know anyone. But usually they don't, but you never know. It's kind of like DEP, they have their own little silos and do their own thing, so.
I feel like what we're gonna get is gonna look almost identical to what Preston has.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those are the signs I'm looking at. and-
Right,
And I don't know if they did speed limit change ones, did they have like fines for like?
there's no
speed-
fines, I don't think there's fines on their signage, but everything else looked. almost
Yeah, this
identical.
was like speed limit when blinking, and, or fines double during blinking out or something, so.
Where's we'll have that?
well, yes, they have some signage that.
Because some towns had the signage already and they just replaced it, and we've never had it, so, because the signs that we have up are not school signs, they're pedestrian crossing signs, so. I don't know.
So is it difficulty because it's not a town road, it's considered.
It's a state
road, so
road,
you
and I have to
yeah,
get
like
permission.
Griswold probably, if it was a town road. just
Theirs is
kinda-
on a state road.
Yeah, theirs is on
Oh,
the
it's there.
line.
Most schools are on state.
Yeah, most of them are, so. I don't know.
It's really just finding the right, like, once you get the right person on the phone.
I had the right person
Right.
because he was working with me when I started all this,
Right.
and then all of a sudden he's like, oh, that's not my wheelhouse anymore.
Yeah, because once you get somebody, they'll be like, oh. he's not the
Are
guy.
you who the wheel? who
He-
is in
they
that
didn't
wheel?
have a place yet, and that's what's been going on, is they're not filling positions, so they're. I don't know who, they have like temporary people or like 3 people doing one job, so it's like impossible, so it's all over the state where they're doing that. So.
And have you tried like Brian Lanu or Heather?
Not recently, I haven't. Brian was working with me on my Eversource issue, so, but on other stuff, no, he hasn't.
Because maybe, I don't know if the next time they'll be in session, but maybe when they're down there. we
Yeah.
could Get some contact.
Don't we go back in around March?
Sounds about right, yeah,
I'm not sure.
yeah.
I'll keep working. If we don't get another storm, so I just got a text from Eversource that there's another storm coming.
Right, yeah,
So,
okay.
all right,
Thank you for the update, Tracy, it's very helpful.
thank you.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you, Tracy. And Tracy, before you go, I'd like to thank Town Hall for helping us develop the RFP for the HVAC for the gym. Your office has been very helpful in that process. Thank you.
You're welcome. I was just talking to Julie
You
about
can
that.
add that to the minutes, Dee Dee.
Thank you. Alright,
And did you catch her note about sending? Can you hear me okay?
Can you hear?
Let me see, did you catch, yes, about sending information?
Yeah,
Last month I sent, Heather Summers and Brian Lanou some information, and, we will go ahead and see what we can do with follow up with what we talked about today.
Yeah, so if we can maybe send those, whatever you sent to Tracy as well, she said she
Yes.
could maybe try email.
I wonder if anybody
And,
can make a state
one of the
ordinance.
things we also want to do is call the state police and get them back in and say, can they check for speeding, and we can use that also as one of the reference points, because if they're ticketing people and, making an issue of that, it becomes a community issue. I've never seen anything like this with making a request. It's been 2 years now, and there's no follow through, and, it makes it very, very difficult. If it were our own road, we could do all sorts of things.
But I don't know, maybe Valerie just mentioned maybe reaching out to somebody at Cade to see if they have anybody that, any contacts they could give.
Department of
Yes.
Education, you're saying? Yeah. Well, I'm gonna circle back to with what, 2 years ago, it was Lanoon and Summers that got in touch with Tracy and got her in touch with the Department of Transportation, but
Yeah.
they're saying now it's not DOT, so it might have, but it doesn't hurt to just circle back.
Right.
But as a follow-up, this is not handled yet,
Right.
so
No,
where do we go?
you know. It's almost like a comedy thing, you know, with 2 years to get a school sign in front of a school.
Right.
This is an illegal comment. If you could find out where they order the signs,
Oh,
order the damn signs and put them on.
yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
It's our job to keep kids
Well,
safe,
there's
so.
Exactly,
another,
exactly. You know, the cop will come by,
Okay,
there's a new sign, I'll have to enforce it.
Let's see how quickly you hear from somebody, put up an illegal sign.
Yeah. Maybe that'll get more of a reaction. I'm sorry, I just couldn't resist that.
All right.
Yeah, sorry.
there's another factor, and that might be student notes to legislators, but I think that might be.
It's a good idea.
That would
Yeah,
that would
that's
have
what
to
I'm
be
trying
as
to
a
do.
last
Yeah.
The walkers, every walker
Yes,
in town,
right.
like that's a student say, this is my experience.
Or Mr. Chatty already his experience.
We did, yeah, started with this. Okay, we can move on to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve as presented?
Motion, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, none heard, motion passes. We approve the consent agenda. Item number 4, administrative reports, starting with the principal report. Mrs. Cephalito.
We came back in January to a lot of sickness, lots of COVID, some flu, strep. It's all going around, so that we came back to, a lot of that. We've been instituting some spirit days randomly, just because we're really trying to promote school. We had one, we brought back ice cream, so that was quite a feast with ice cream. Everybody wanted ice cream, probably what you wanted, right? So we definitely, started that back again, which makes it fun. Yes. We have PD on Friday, so we do have some math PD happening with 2 potential series that we're investigating, updating, so we'll go through that professional development. And the remaining of our teachers, we're having junior high school meetings, so we're talking about where our kids are going to high school and those upcoming contacts. So we always work and talk to the high schools as we progress through the year, so we do that also. Basketball, our boys are doing phenomenal, our girls too, and it's fun to watch them play. It's different every year as you lose kids every year and see them play, but it's fun to watch them play. One of our highlights is we do morning news, and it's videotaped, so some of the media things that we've been trying to get kids exposed to, so they work through Canva, they videotape. We do put it on a link on YouTube, and they you know, everybody in school watches the video. So we used to be very old school and do announcements in the morning. You'd come to the big intercom in the front and, but we've kind of progressed into technology a little bit. So it's getting kids like being, you know, making the scripts and then putting it all in to the program and that. So we've been, working on that. We are preparing already for SBAC. That'll be, the week of April 22nd. So third grade and up, we'll be starting SBAC that week, hopefully 1 week after vacation is better. Last year we had kids still on vacation, so they had to make them up. So we are doing preparations for that. We're working with our school system, our registration system and CT SEDS to make sure that all of our accommodations are in there. We're not quite sure we trust that system yet, so we're being really everybody make sure. So, I think that's about it. Short and sweet.
Any questions for Mrs. Sepulveda? We'll have more for you as they pertain. Item number 2, the Director of Student Services, Dr. Lloyd Johnson, please.
Something that's not in writing. We now are fairly confident that all 3 of the main high schools plus the tech schools, when we have transition meetings, whether it's for 504 or IEPs, we'll have a representative at the table. And NFA had to stop that a couple of years ago because of staffing issues. But Adam and I met with the new head of school. We were very impressed with, besides was, and I think Adam was too, with his presence, his enthusiasm and his interest in being responsive to constructive criticism. We had a very good meeting a couple of weeks ago. This next item isn't for any action, but just to prep you for the fact that there probably will be a need for you to, at some time in the future, designate a district transition coordinator. This is the existing handbook for transition services for students between the years of high school and the year they turn 22. It's called transition services. We've talked about it before. We have some students involved in that kind of programming, but the state is stepping up their emphasis of that and training in that area. So I expect that Adam will be recommending that I be designated the transition coordinator for the school district, and there'll be some training on it to be involved in. But it affects a very small number of kids in our district, but the students that it does affect need those services very much. So most often, either it's an entree to a state agency such as DDS, Department of Developmental Services, or DEMAS, the Department of Mental Health and Addictive Services, or entree to the world of work, and which are additional schooling. So, and like I said, as I said, we have some good programs available. Griswold developed one a few years ago, and we have some students in that program. It's working very well. So, let's see. I'm gonna just thank Amy for all the support with. It seemed like late fall, there were an awful lot of assessments teachers had to, our special ed teachers had to do regarding triennial evaluations and new referrals. And she was helpful in providing some release time so they could do the testing without missing their services to the students that currently are in the caseload. I think I talked last time about the creative problem solving that is happening with the districts. I just had a meeting today with Griswold, and again, the creative problem solving and trying to help this student complete their high school diploma by June when they are significantly credit deficient was just really a pleasure to participate in. And as I say in my report, Dr. Casey has been introducing us to 3 new evaluations by the Pfeiffer assessments, one for reading, one for math, and one for reading, writing, and math to help identify dyslexia, dyscalculia, and dysgraphia. And we're almost done with the staff receiving the training. The training in math will happen later on this month. And our staff, members of our staff have started becoming familiar enough with the reading one to use it. So that growth in the capability of the department is why we want to hire it. And any questions? It's going along very well. Everybody's very busy and kids are progressing, and we're trying to become more and more familiar with the CT sets program and how to make it work. And
Work at it, yes.
it's coming along.
It's good to hear.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for your update. If there's no questions, we can complete that piece of it. Thank you so much,
You're welcome.
Lloyd. And then our superintendent report.
Yes, you have my calendar of events for January, February. District enrollment 238 pre-K through 8, which is pretty consistent for the year. We have 126 high school students, which has been somewhat stable. We returned $11,885 to the town from the undesignated fund. We finalized the policy 5131 on cellular phones. We had the letter to 5th, 6th grade parents from Amy Sufaletto regarding a leave of absence. For the 23-24 cancellations, you have a chart there that shows, and this week we had 2 delayed openings, which was interesting. You have the revised 23-24 calendar, which comes up next on the agenda. And then there's CADE policy highlights. And the building committee meeting, I think within the committee reports, I talked to Jack today, we're going to meet January 30th rather than this Tuesday, because there are some things that are happening. I just want you to know that with youth services, the YSB and the LPC, the Local Prevention Council, I just submitted a grant for $2,265 for vaping materials, and I want to thank Amy for working with me on this. We are following it through with some incidents, and we're also monitoring any incidents that might develop because of other, instances. If there's marijuana or vaping or other things, we will continue to be diligent in making sure that we're following up with any incidents that occur with that. I think we're all set, Kate.
I think that's, I feel like. Yeah, but it's part of the, is it included in DARE programs at this point in time? I figured, right?
Yeah, it's a t-shirt, which one t-shirt contest?
Yeah, they designed the poster for YSB.
Yeah.
It is, it's very much, it's probably worse at their levels, obviously. Or in bigger middle schools, I'm sure it's probably way worse. But it is, it's an issue because it's advertised for, as it's advertised, these kids are very drawn to that advertisement, and they come in things that you wouldn't think. One of the best programs we had, which myself, Kathy, but that program we had, and Tracy Hansen came, it was,
Like 5 people there.
yeah, it was like 5 of us there, but it was a mock
In plain sight.
bedroom in plain sight.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a mock bedroom, and it was all the different
things.
areas that you wouldn't think that kids would hide things and, you know, they basically were like, just don't be naive to your own children. You know, kids do these things and such, but that was a very good, it was very eye-opening to the things that, you know. But we are working on it, so we submitted the grant. We put in for, you know, some curriculum material, we had the grant last year, and that's why we did the shirts and the poster, the girls didn't sign the poster. You know, so we're just focusing on education, going to do, I reached out to somebody today, a free parenting one through CIRAC, they'll come in and they'll talk to parents at night just about vaping, yeah, substance abuse, they do a lot, so. We're gonna tap into them, they'll come in during the school day too, and talk to kids. So, you know, we're just gonna have to do more talking.
Yeah. Do you, like, if you find a student vaping,
Mhm.
do you like notify the parent or no?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I assume so.
Oh,
but I
yeah,
didn't wanna-
Yeah.
I was just curious, because a lot of, I would assume that a lot of parents don't realize, maybe.
No, so, you know, they're just as surprised as, you know, as educators, that you think nobody's doing anything, and then you're just as shocked as anybody else,
Yeah.
so. But I always say, you know, that this is like par for the course, right, with kids, like, it's gonna happen. We just have to be prepared and educate, and try to make them realize there's such a danger in vaping opposed to like cigarette smoking.
Right.
Like that, it's just so dangerous for them. Yeah, and you know, what I really hone in on is you don't know what's in it. So, you know, Billy Bob gives you something and you're using it and you don't know, and then something happens to you. You know, it could be fentanyl, it could be whatever. And that's the scary part, but their brain can't connect those pieces.
Yeah.
Their frontal lobe doesn't allow them to do it. They just think they're invincible.
Right, and it's the steps of what they've been educated on, you know, it's almost like you have to start at ground zero again and, but without going to.
There has to
That
be,
helps.
Don't realize, I mean, we had, you know, a student who went to the bathroom and used a vape that they didn't know what was in it, or, you know, and came back to class and had a seizure and had to be rushed to the hospital and they said, you know, well, what were you allergic to? She goes, I don't even know what was in it. You know, and it's scary because now you're in a situation where they're trying to figure out like what you're allergic to or why you had a seizure from it and what was in it. And they end up, you know, the girl who had it ended up flushing it.
Oh.
So then you couldn't even figure out what was actually in it. So it's a very scary road to start going down. And I mean, this was high school where their bodies are a little bit more developed than these little guys down here.
And it does start younger, you know, I'm always one that's, you know, like, you don't need to, you know, but really, it really is those, as they start in 4th and 5th grade, you have to talk about like, you need to make healthy choices, like vaping is not, you know, and these things happen. And you would be surprised how much our younger friends really do know, you know, and how much they'll be like, oh yeah, that's gross, you know, like, because they know, you know, and I think it's that then continuing that conversation as they go on, hopefully make the right choice.
And people all around, I know someone my age who gets marijuana from a dealer. And I said, she goes, I've got it from him for years. I said, he doesn't really know what he's getting. He's somebody, you know, it's not medical grade marijuana.
Right.
Nobody's checked that. I'm sure he thinks all he's got is marijuana. He doesn't think he's selling you fentanyl or rat poison or whatever. Whatever can be in there, you don't know. Even if it's somebody you've got things from for years, he thinks.
Yeah.
just as a comment for organizational structure, we have a crisis intervention team. If there's events that happen, that team has met on a monthly basis and as needed throughout each year. And they review different issues and protocols, and they do a check to see if the things that were followed through complied with the standards that they want. There's also our social emotional group that works with making sure that if there's any social emotional support, and this is just not one person, but it's a team approach with follow through and other types of things. And this is all part of our all hazard plan, our school safety plan. And the ultimate goal is also to see how this matches up with curriculum and the health curriculum and other types of things. So there will be a relentlessness in follow through with this because we were debating on whether or not to submit the vaping grant, and then there were things that we wanted to follow through with, and there may be other ways to reorganize this. So I just want to give that an indication to the board about the organizational structure of the school district, and I thank Amy for the follow through. And in actuality, we all have some follow through with what's happening.
Well, thank you for that update. I know you mentioned a revised calendar. Are we revising the this year's calendar?
There's a revision for this year's calendar and the 24-25 calendar. I don't know if that's later on the agenda, but
We down to
It
number
is.
4?
No, I'm sorry. No, just in your, sorry, you mentioned the calendar, so I was just curious that.
Oh, well, we can do that at number 4.
Okay,
There's gonna be
okay.
some things that happened.
All right. Anything else from the superintendent report?
I just finished all set.
Oh, great. We can move on to old business, the budget preparation timeline for 24-25. Budget phase of things.
Oh,
I know.
you know, it's gonna be interesting, Megan. I can tell you that. Okay, look, here it is. I have gone through this, and this is just an initial foray into the budget thing because there are a number of variables that are happening. But on the cover page, it indicates this is a request, an initial request of $7,397,675. That represents a $341 increase, or 4.85 over the 23-24 total of $7,055,334. And there's things that are happening in here with price increases and other things that are happening. Now, I just wanted you to know that this does include the Spanish teacher, and that is a program. And as Amy indicated, if we don't get the Spanish teacher, then we would wind up having to hire, a teacher to fulfill a certain portion of educational things. I wanted to mention that the certified 111 account, the very first line in the budget, shows a $219,051 increase. This is the third year of this 3-year contract for the teachers that's going in. Of that, about 60,000 is for the Spanish teacher at one of the lower end salaries. And then
That's
the
full-time.
other thing is that we have a retirement benefit that's in there. So, this represents in that line a 16.6% increase. And that's what we will be monitoring. Now, we don't know if we're going to get other retirements or resignations or what happens, but this is the roller coaster ride that we will be reviewing. I want you to go down to line number 280 on the 1,000 account. That is health benefits. And as you can see, this year we had 294,000. Next year, it indicates 366,137. And that's a 24% increase, but that involves the insurance for a new teacher. So you can see that there are some things that are happening. Now, remember, this year, with our health benefits, we eventually wound up with just a $12,000 increase overall. So in the next few months, we have to go on the roller coaster ride and see what's happening with the fringe benefits. The 561 tuition, public high school. This year, it was 1,036,103. The projection for next year is 1,028,899, which is minus 7,204. I have to apologize with the board. When we were doing the budget last year, I was looking for money and inadvertently one number got in there that was just a little bit less than what we needed. So this year, we're looking at, ways to make up with that, but that is a decrease, but it's not similar to what I had indicated with some savings for the NFA tuition, and I apologize for that because sometimes there's numbers that escape you, but we did get our budget approved last year. If we had included that, I'm not sure that, the citizens would have gone for such a budget increase. But we're monitoring expenses this year, and we're seeing how that develops. This is offset by some other tuition decreases. We did bring back an outplaced student. And the special ed tuition is something that we are monitoring on a regular basis. Your regular ed budget went up 9.59%. And you can see this includes supplies and other materials. Now, the special ed account is a 1.4% overall increase. The big accounts for this are the 561, 563, and 564 accounts. This year, there was an approved budget of about 846,000. But next year, we have at this time projected 891,000, which is about a $44,000 increase. But again, there's the upcoming roller coaster ride. Will we need all of those services? But Lloyd just mentioned transition services to age 22. And there was new legislation. So a few years ago, we were required to, educate students up to 21. And then they said, oh, also 22. So if a child is 22 in that school year, we're responsible for the full transition tuition. And this is, quote, an unfunded mandate. Yes, that does have some impact, within the budget proposal. Okay, I'm going to move on just to give some overviews with things. But if people have questions, they can ask me. The special ed administrative account is going up 3.47, and there's some slight increases with some of the contracts and what's happening. Social worker services, I cut that back to 0 because we got a grant for 60,000 over a few years. And guidance services, it's up 2.81. Again, the health insurance is determined at 10.7%. But we could turn around, and last year they projected 10% and our overall increase was more like 277. So we have to see what happens with the Connecticut partnership. It's unfortunate, but the cost of health insurance is rising. Health services, that's a given, 2.84. The salary is, non-certified, that's negotiated. We left the psych services at 64,000, and we can watch that. There's been an increase in speech and audiology services and contracted services. We're finding that there's more and more students that need help with speech and language. Improvement, OTPT services. As you notice, in 22-23, the actual expense was 81,000. And then this year we budgeted 67,000. That account is already 22,000 in deficit. And we've had some additional services that are needed for students. I have 78,964 in that account for next year. But we again have birth to 3 students coming in, and there's some OTPT services that require, attention. Instruction of staff, 0%. Library media. This is Margaret Boland helps cover the library, and there's a 5.43% increase in that. So 1/4, well, there's a salary portion that is paid for that. With instructional technology, that's down to a 0.41% increase. If you notice, line 520 is cyber insurance. That's $6,000. I thought we were gonna have to budget 15,000 with that, but Kermit did a great job with helping us go out to bid. And I'm hoping that the technology committee can implement a number of strategies that shows that we're protecting our network and our access to technology. And as you document and prove those things, there is sometimes a little bit of a drop in the insurance, or there's a stabilization on that. The next page is the Board of Ed. You can see one of our big things there is the workers' comp. We followed through and budgeted the same as last year. Other professional services is negotiations. I'll be talking to the Board of Ed about that later. And then the budget increase was 2.51. The Office of the Superintendent, please note, health benefits were 15,000 this year. They've dropped to 7,500, and that money was part of my contract. And my contract only allows me a certain amount of money based on the 45% rule by the Teachers Retirement Board. I can't go any higher than that, or they would take away part of my pension. So that number is based on the highest teacher's salary. And even though there was an increase, I want to make sure that the board remains competitive within that salary as as we move forward. The Office of the Principal is a 5% increase, with the first line being Amy's salary, and that's just gone up slightly. We did have some money in there for some part-time administrative help, but we're figuring other ways with working that as far as this year is concerned. Let's see, fiscal services is up 1.8. Operation of maintenance, minus 2.21%. With the first line, non-cert wages. We had 2 full-time custodians in the evening. We have rearranged that, and we have 2 part-time people that help us out And one of our daytime custodians in a reorganization finishes his day out helping in the evening. So we realized some savings. And oh, by the way, with moving to the part-time situation, we did not have to pay a health benefit. The transportation account is 0.16, that's a minus. We need a handicap van, and I'm not sure how we're going to actually do this, but I did put down 442, and I put down $10,000 in this year's budget and $8,000 in a proposal, but over the next few months, we have to decide. The van that we want is $90,000. And in the past, we have taken out a small loan to make sure that we can pay for, any vehicles, and that, that goes out over a certain amount of time. But our challenges are with maintenance and repairs. The buses will be 7, 8 years old now, and we're looking at that very carefully. To replace those would be quite expensive, because the last round, it was about $93,000 for a diesel bus, and that was 8, 9 years ago. So that means the price is soaring, and we would need 6 large buses and probably 2 small buses. Again, do we look at a lease purchase agreement? Do we look at other approaches? That's not in the budget, but if you buy new vehicles, your maintenance fees go down for a few years. So we need to balance out the cost of maintenance and paying for new
I was
buses.
gonna say, every month I'm signing a check for like 8,000 or 9,000 for maintenance. On the buses between.
Well, just
routine.
the transportation still needs to be
Yeah.
reviewed. And just looking at strategies, and as I said, we have new students coming in that require handicapped accessibility. We have one van, and quite frankly, that one van and the program that we're offering is saving this community. The estimated cost is really incredible what we're saving.
Adam, is the other van they're looking at, can you fit 2 wheelchairs in it?
Yes,
Or
and
one,
yes, no, I believe it's 2, and it's big enough for some additional passengers.
Oh.
Yeah, so, that's the one that we're looking at. There's a $70,000 one, and this is the $90,000 one. But that was the October quote, and I'm not sure where that would be right now. But I need to come up with something for the Board of Ed, and I will tell you, there's not too many vendors that have these available, so we have a very, very limited supply chain with what is happening, and we have some unique situations. Special ed transportation is a minus 0.59. We do have student transportation services, 23,000 a year, and we connect with Griswold on that because we have an outplacement about 45 miles away. And those transportation services are paid for through that. Food services, we're keeping the $6,635 in there. In the food services account, we've been paying down the balances and spending the money because the state doesn't want you to develop a big balance. So we've made some improvements with the kitchen and other things, and we will monitor that as far as being able to supply things. The extracurricular account is basically flat. And of course, the community services operation is our contribution to the YSB. Now, You know, there's just a lot of things that are happening. One blessing that we have is on the board behind us. 2,117,000 and a few hundred left. That's the ECS grant, and that's been approved by the legislators. If they implement the school finance project formula, that cuts our grant by $688,000. And if they do that, that's happening in 24, 25. The only saving grace that we've had for the last 6 years is the legislators have held us harmless. So the legislators haven't been paying attention to the school finance project. But as we go along with the development next year for the budget, you're going to hear all sorts of wonderful things about how the school finance project is increasing funding overall for education by $150 million, $160 million. And guess what? We get none of that. And if they implement that, we get cut 600 up to possibly 688,000. I don't agree with the formula. I've researched it, looked through it, and the only saving grace is the legislators have been protecting Eastern Connecticut. And there's school districts that are getting millions upon millions. Not to say that they don't deserve it, but why take from us and give us this formula that allows Little Voluntown with their $7 million cut to have, I think I counted it was the 37th largest cut in the entire state. Where is the equity? And the other thing is, I don't think that they really spend enough time talking about mill increases and some of the other community needs that happened. And I'm not sure, I gotta go and look and see how they treat the state park as far as the wealth of the community, because their formula has never really been something that I think Voluntown, gets a fair share, and our legislators have been fighting with this. Now, this is the initial proposal. I have to give you something today. We've been working like crazy. Every day there's something new that comes in. Something breaks on the bus and I've got a $15,000 repair. Or a new student walks in and we have, 8,000 added to OTPT. So these are the things, and this is the roller coaster ride. So that's the best explanation I have right now.
So one more retirement would probably bring us down one more retirement would bring us down to about 2.5.
Well, it
Do we have any-
depends on what's happening.
Yeah.
There are some retirements, but it just seems as if, it does average out. There's a para on max that leaves and there's a new person that
Yeah.
comes in at less
Equalize.
salary. If there's an outplacement that leaves or comes back into the regular fold, we really do benefit from that. But we also have to make sure that we're budgeting completely with outplacements. And that we budget full amount for special ed and the town gets the reimbursement. And that's something to watch because last year I think we got, it's back on the page with the reimbursement. With what happened with our budget. I had it in there, but I think it was like almost $90,000. It's in your budget report and the consent agenda. It's up to 11,800, but we've submitted the numbers for the excess special ed costs. And yeah, last year we returned 109,736 to the town. So you can see, you know, there's some balancing acts that do exist. Now, I need to talk about the maintenance budget, because Tracy is helping us, the town hall, with the HVAC grant. And we have about 100,000 left in that account for the gym HVAC. We applied for a grant for 170,000 and we didn't get it. They're, you know, we're a small school district. We don't get the points for the need, you know, for the, you know, that happen within the cities because they're deemed as more needy. And as we were talking, they said, you know, the town approved 170,000 for HVAC, and that was, you know, for this building. The library HVAC is 35 years old. We still have window units in the kindergarten classrooms, and there was a couple of other things. And the town actually said, well, you know, the town might just say, we've approved that fund, we've set it aside, and, you know, we'll let you use that for that project. So therefore, the last meeting, I think I gave you a capital improvement plan of about 600,000. And the building committee will meet again to see where we are within the projects. We know we have money set aside for the asbestos abatement this summer. We know we have grants available for the gym HVAC. We may have some other funds that are available for other projects. And this kind of has to be weaved together because we have an older building, but it is in good repair. And when we get to the final agenda item today, you'll be able to read about indoor air quality, tools for schools and safety, and what we're doing to maintain our building, okay? Any questions? I spoke for a long time, but I wanted you to have a bit of an overview of the priorities. And the numbers there could change based on the needs of students.
I think we really want to, when we put out a school newsletter, mention how much is going back to town.
It's
So, you
in
know,
the,
it's not- Yeah,
yeah, we include that within
Yeah,
the
put it
budget
in there.
proposal.
that, so, and somebody will probably read through, some parent will read through at least one of those once before April or May. Not
Yes,
the other
we
thing.
added that on page 6 of the budget,
Yeah,
Kathy,
I'm-
but we'll update that.
I'm just-
And then in my budget explanation, I include more details for the town meeting. But you know, in the long run, I think the town has been very appreciative of what the board has done and how we're going about trying to secure extra grants and other things. And you know, as I said, we just put in a grant for 2,265 for vaping. I've got another grant that's going in for 33,000 for reading support for K through 3 or 1 through 3. So that we're taking advantage of any grant. But as I said to the faculty at the faculty meeting on Tuesday, you'll get the budget on Friday morning. This budget pays for our existing staff. Any grants are not used to replace any of this money, because once you start, you know, filling in day-to-day operations with outside grants, the grants go away, and then you're going to have an enduring matrix of negative budget challenges. I don't know how else to say it. But anyway, questions, please.
For Spanish teacher, that's in excess of what you're currently paying, yes? That's not in addition to,
It's, a full-time, because the board wants full-time Spanish and then keep a part-time for the younger, so that's a full and a
That was
blended.
about 14,000, Megan.
what is 14?
That's included in there, yeah.
Well, no, but you know, your full-time Spanish is not 14,000. It's 1.5.
It's
There's some room there.
1.1
One and a point two.
in a day,
Okay.
1.2.
And then,
If we can find.
and then I noticed a 10,000 salary in the superintendent office. So 10,000 increases.
Yes,
What is that?
well, we still have to review that, but that's in there.
Yeah,
But there's a $7,500 savings from health benefits. So therefore, within my contract, I'm only allowed to receive health and salary. So therefore, I took the sum that was determined by the 45% rule, and I moved money as part of my compensation into the salary account.
Have we ever done an analysis with the increase of the OT and the PT? Have we ever done any sort of analysis on the special education implication of non-residents as it relates to the pre-K program? So even if, so like if, okay, so if you have like a 3-year-old that comes in that would normally receive services through their public school, like a
We don't
Griswold
take
student.
residents,
That,
that's
we,
birth to 3,
They
So would
wouldn't,
we-
they would have to go to their sending school, so like,
you know,
okay,
they could come here,
right,
right? We could say, okay, so they have to score, so we go through the screening process with
yeah,
all of our non-residents
okay,
before we accept them, so they have to be a typically developing peer.
okay,
There are times when we might question or need to say, you need to go back to your sending town, things are
Okay.
happening, you don't know when they're 3 and then.
well,
now
that was
they're
what I was
4.
wondering is.
Yeah.
Right.
So this is all of our volunteer kids for OTPT.
Okay.
My only question would be to Lloyd is, maybe we need to say, how much is OT, how much is PT? Is it worth purchasing or hiring an actual PT instead of a company? I don't know if it's worth.
Find somebody.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's worth money. I don't know.
Yeah.
The balance. What swings in the balance is the cost of, health benefits.
Right.
You just,
Yeah.
you pay a flat
But
hourly.
if you, well, I guess the question would be, would you need somebody full-time?
Right, so maybe
Right? You needed
OT.
somebody 3 days a week,
Right.
right? Because your PT is not here 5 days a week right now, right?
PT is only one,
And
so
I know
that's suffice.
Maybe,
It's
yeah,
OT that there are a lot,
Right.
you could probably bill that person 4 days, 5, I mean, right now, 3 days booked, so if we get more kids, you
Right.
might see an increase now because kids are coming through the evaluation process. And we might need to add on another day, that's actually something we need to talk about because they're
Yeah.
full, 3 days full. So that's the hard part, it's a swing with, sometimes it's a lot, sometimes it's exit, depends.
yeah, I know, it's
Yeah.
tough, right?
But then is it worth
I
hiring
mean,
somebody or is it worth
It kind of,
contracting? I don't know.
maybe I'm speaking out of turn, but it kind of seems like the OTPT is not gonna get a lot less, right? It's
No.
more now,
It's
right?
definitely
It's
more.
always kind of increasing, right? So. Yeah, I mean. I think
Decreases over time, but you always have new little
that-
kids
New
coming
kids,
in
right, and more
They're-
kids on IEP.
that are developmentally just
Right.
they need the extra help to, develop their, fine motor skills.
The problem would be getting an actual body to hire.
Yeah, somebody who
You know,
wanna work part-time
even-
or,
When I was in line, we did that, we hired full-time people
Yeah.
with benefits.
Right.
right,
We
I
had-
was gonna say benefits right now, it's a $20,000 bonus to hire on as a full-time PT.
yeah.
They're short everywhere
Yeah.
from PT, it's increasing as the population gets older.
Then you can share with
Yeah.
school.
Yeah.
I mean?
and stuff.
I mean, we have the assistants that come, right, so they work under the OT.
Yeah.
And come and fulfill that, but if we were to have our own, we would have to actually have an OT.
Yeah.
Because you would have to have somebody develop the plan, you can't just hire an OTA and do the plan, you have to have.
Yeah, it's just.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right, so I don't know if it's
right, at 70K for both right now, it's probably not worth it, probably in the next
Right.
5 years, we'll be looking at it though.
Yeah, cause you figure, PT is probably maybe a third of that, and the bulk is OT.
Right, so then it becomes, do you outsource the PT and have a full-time OT, right? Like,
Right, so you have to like, what's it worth, Well, money, I mean.
Yeah,
right.
And what can you actually
What can you
get?
actually get?
It's like, it's fine financing a full-time Spanish teacher,
Right,
but are we gonna find a Spanish?
I don't know, we hope so.
You know,
Is that out yet?
I was hoping that after this meeting, then,
yeah,
I mean, I think we should post
and stuff,
really, I think, because we talked about last,
You could post an anticipation of.
certification.
because, but that again becomes a issue of, can you get a body to fill the spot? A qualified body to fill the spot, and that's the problem everybody's having in healthcare and education.
Agreed. Under food service, the
Yeah.
food service non-cert wage.
Food services,
Non-certified wage, is that for, like?
yeah, that,
folks that are
if
in
we
the
have to
kitchen?
use it, that's available if we need to pay for any additional wages. I wasn't gonna cut that back to zero, and we did realize, savings last year, that amount of money. But we're required to cut back on how much we have in a balance. So we've done some kitchen improvements based on the reimbursements. Now, the school readiness program just paid $4,555 for the meals for the preschoolers. And that wasn't in place in the past because everybody got free meals. So we had that money from the school readiness grant that helped with other materials. So now we are paying into the school lunch program for that from the preschool grant, the school readiness grant. But that means that you had to cut back a little bit on how much that grant paid for perhaps a paraprofessional or some other services. We do fund most of the salaries. The teacher salaries are all paid for by the grant. And I believe the health benefits are paid, but you know, this is just part of the process.
Further questions as we digest? Okay, we can move along to item number 2, federal and state grants. The state grants.
Oh, I just filled you in on the grants, so there's just gonna be a summary in the minutes of where we are with the grants. Okay, so that's all squared away.
Okay, so we can move to item number 3, the NFA 2025.
The partner school districts will be meeting with the head of NFA to discuss issues. If there's a need for board involvement, we'll let Kate know, and there might be a meeting of the chairs or something, depending upon what happens. But there's a collective effort to, you know, see what the partners school districts can come up with a contract with the NFA.
Okay. That is it. Item number 4 is the 24-25 school calendar.
Okay, look at December, look at December 20. That's the big issue. The previous calendar had December, yeah, that's the calendar, plus we gave you a colored copy. Megan, it might be in there someplace, because it's easier to read. Look at December 20th, okay? Now, we we had, an early dismissal on that Monday, the following Monday, but we decided that the vacation would start on December 20th, Friday. Okay, here's another decision. Some school districts are doing an early dismissal on December 20th, and some are having a full day. And of course, when we've done that in the past, I've always received telephone calls saying, okay, how come everybody else is getting out with an early dismissal and we have to have our vacation delayed? Of course, if I had my druthers, I would probably say my preference would be to put it in as an early dismissal, because the buses are running. It just allows us to go out and follow. If we have 3 or 4 high schools with early dismissals, it's easier if we have an early dismissal too. So it's up to the board, but that was the big issue with that calendar. And of course, we still get out, that second week in June.
What happens if one of your high schools decides not to have an early dismissal?
Then we go and we pick them up at that time.
Later.
So you force.
Yes,
an
but
early
see, the
dismissal
other
in your
buses
kid.
have already picked up most of the other high schools. So we have some flexibility with that, Val.
So you force an early dismissal.
Yeah.
On that school.
No, no, they don't,
An early dismissal of your kids.
no, we go back out like 3.
So
They'll all be back.
So if you do an early dismissal so let's say there's another school that has no early dismissal. Our early dismissal of our kids is not gonna influence this buses having to go back out.
No.
What's gonna be more disruptive, the buses having to go back out or the buses going?
We may have one high school that has full day. And we can
School.
reorganize the buses for that. But there's enough high schools that are having an early dismissal. So we would be okay for an early dismissal.
So I think
I guess my only other concern is like if the high schoolers are watching younger siblings.
well,
And well, it's a valid, if a high school is not getting out, if all the high schools are getting out and they're there to watch their siblings, but then. I think I'd just be careful with that decision. I don't know how many, I guess I'm in the dark, like I don't know how many are letting out, how many aren't. So if NFA is letting out, but like Griswold and Wheeler aren't, then like. That's a pretty significant portion of our kids, I would think.
Yeah, we probably would be able to do it. It depends on how many.
many.
Right, so that's my question, how many are doing?
Right, we can fix, like, we can run down to Wheeler and take a van or minibus, but to take out big kids, right? I think we just have to probably see who else. I'm gonna assume that most of them are gonna have early dismissals.
Yeah.
That's what I'm gonna
Is this
assume.
decision to be made?
No, it's just kind of like a discussion, just the calendar.
Yeah.
I originally was like, let's go on December 23rd, and he's like.
Oh.
I was like, wait, let me think that through for a moment here. Look at early dismissal the day before Christmas Eve. And I'm like, oh, that's probably not a good idea. People are probably right. This is the most. I know.
Like honestly, like I don't.
On the 20th, don't get a good long vacation.
It probably would.
They kind of have.
Some place to go, pay, travel,
Yeah.
or,
It's a long week leading up to Christmas.
it's gonna be a long week, sometimes, meaning.
So the spring break for this year is the week.
It's very early.
It's, well, for this year, it's
Wait,
early, but for the next year, it's
Not.
late.
Yeah, that's because it's MFA's.
It
in
is.
Griswold. Because you guys,
Yeah.
why? I don't know why you guys could skip the eight, it's so early. I don't know, I don't have the same vacation, my friend in Plainfield, they don't have the same vacation, but I don't know why it's so early.
Is it determined by the Easter break?
Well, Easter is the 30th and 31st this year, super early. I was just looking at how he's gonna put it.
It doesn't fall in line. Well, why would that?
Well,
I just don't have to do that thing.
thing all together, Good Friday and the week off. But they can't this year, it's in March.
But those two big high schools are that early week, so I don't know why that was picked. But it doesn't fit anybody else's schedule. You're off the following week, see?
Rhode Island,
A
yeah,
week
yeah.
without my children, and
I
how
know.
horrible is that?
My kids are on the following week too, I'm not complaining, I'm not saying.
Okay, so we are going to table this until we have more information.
A little more info.
But otherwise, it looks good, I mean,
Yes.
it's all the.
So we're just talking about the 20th of December.
Now, people are, formulating their calendars, and hopefully by the next meeting, we can have samples of those, put together a packet, and we would also make a recommendation with what we think would work best.
Yeah, I mean, I
But
think.
the
at this
April
time it's
vacation, A lot of time was spent on that, and that was an agreement with EastCon and Learns. So there's, 40 school districts that are saying it's the week of April 14th. And then right off the bat, there's some school districts that are taking 2 weeks at Christmas time.
Really? They don't want to come back to Thursday.
With an early dismissal on that Friday.
Okay. All right, we covered the safety on Route 138 and number 5, so that's all set. And then we move to policies. Some of our second reading here.
Amy and Lloyd, it's, I don't think that we're all.
Don't have to have the
meeting either.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, unless Amy wanted to.
Yeah, I'll just stay, because there's like some policies, like wellness that came up last time. Every time after I leave, those questions.
Yeah.
I'm just still waiting for it. If I get a second hand.
We'll go through them quickly, very quickly. Don't
This-
listen.
they
Just them.
Change some of the wording of, right?
Yeah, I
Mhm.
think so. Yeah, so we have had.
Which one is-
We're charging, yeah.
It was
We
just the
had
wording of.
mentioned, I noticed it was in here, but it's not italicized, so I'm wondering if we missed it last time. So on step 2.
Yep.
On page. Step 2. On this page.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It still has, on each occasion that the student charges the meal, the school food authority will verbally remind the students how their parent or guardian sending money to be deposited into their meal account for a negative account balance. And we had wanted to reference removed to talking to the student.
That's fine. I mean, I personally, I wouldn't ask my person to do that. I just send a notice, and we've been trying to set up school messengers.
Right,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
right,
so-
you guys have the automated voicemail, you guys send.
And I hand do all of them.
Right,
So,
so we didn't like,
yeah, nobody should be saying that.
Correct.
Just take that out, that would be
Yeah.
great.
so Dee, do you have
Yep.
that? in step 2?
I also step 3, I felt like that language around limiting what they could use is pretty odd.
Like if they have a negative balance.
If they're negative, they can, they can have, right, if it's not after 10 meals and a letter is sent home,
They just exclude a la carte items.
it's not provided with an alternative meal consisting of milk, fruit cup, or hot vegetable, and a cheese sandwich. It just seems like,
I'm just gonna let kids, we just let.
I know, we
mean,
just removed
I
that.
just, it's not the kid, it's not the kid's problem.
Agreed, and I mean.
Have a
if
good
we're-
It
one.
hasn't been paid,
It's
and
for
it's
$30.
not gonna
They can't get a la carte stuff, they can't be.
Yeah,
going
I'm
outside.
And that's said right
That's
here.
what we said.
That's
That's
what
what
we said.
So maybe, what if they're lactose intolerant? I can't.
But I agree.
I mean, I'll do the updates.
And there will be somebody, okay. And there will be sent home.
in Step 3,
Period.
yeah, that's what I was gonna do, and just cut the
Increase
rest.
Deficit, and like, something like that, and then.
Recently we had somebody donate, we sent a letter home, donate. A significant balance to ours, so we donated into our student account, and they paid off everybody's. significant meals. It's not a lot, but I mean, it's $500. I mean, it's a lot.
And I was doing a paper.
Yeah, somebody I work with had sent out email instead of doing such and such, why don't you just pay off some bills?
Yeah.
Bills.
I-
But the
I would-
people the people that pay off are not the real poor. Cause they be getting free lunch. These are middle class people who just aren't
Yeah,
paying their
that-
bill,
yeah.
you know, to be
Yeah.
fair. They're not.
Agreed, I just, it's, you still.
You don't
have
want
to
to
pay
pay
that.
that.
They're-
That's
That's definitely,
A lot of people do forget, they do forget.
But this thing I got talked about, these are the poor children, they're not the real poor children, these are maybe working class poor or whatever.
Who actually don't qualify, I mean,
Yeah,
that's,
they
it's
don't
already a high.
qualify. It's a high threshold.
So that's fine, yeah, we're not gonna tell her, it costs the same amount of money.
Right,
Cheese sandwich as it does to give a regular meal. It doesn't-
We actually have cheese sandwiches.
No. no,
Okay, I didn't know. Okay, I was
We're not.
like.
I'll remove that wording.
Thanks. With that said, are we doing a motion to approve as amended?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. So, great. Policy and regulation 614210
Okay.
wellness. I think so, yeah. One thing I know that we discussed, but just wanted to kind of emphasize is that it is tied into the wellness policy that we have a wellness committee for, that our board attends on a regular basis, and everything they talk about biannual or triannual review all happens. So that's a good thing, and I think that that is actually in place, was in place, has been in place since this was mandated based on a lot of kind of almost prescriptive things that we've set in place. But I know it took a lot of work and so forth, but at least a lot that is live in here is also work done by the wellness committee and the wellness policy.
I think one of the questions last time that I was asked about after the meeting was, it says you're gonna work up to 60 minutes of time. So the state mandates 20 minutes of lunch and 20 minutes of recess as your bottom threshold.
Yeah.
If you're in an elementary building, we are considered an elementary building. So our middle school does get 20 and 20, but it's not a true 20 and 20 because they actually get a 50 to 55 minute period. So
Yeah.
they're inside, outside, coming out. So they might get 25 minutes, you know, if they're out of locker outside, they might get 25 minutes from them. So it just depends. And then the bottom line was that the wellness committee put in there was work towards 60 minutes of exercise a day, I think it was. I mean, that is hard. I mean, 60 minutes of exercise outside of a special, that's an hour of instruction somewhere. Besides let's say your bare minimum, your 20-minute recess, then you need another 40 minutes somewhere in your day for active activity. So that's hard. You can work toward that. Some teachers will go outside for snacks, some teachers, so those things count in those pieces.
And walking in the hallway counts, all that kind of stuff counts.
I would say,
You know,
but actual bigger
yeah,
activity.
no, they not happening.
They just have a physical activity
Yeah.
daily.
And when we were doing it, it's walking from the bus into the school. It's
As much movement as possible
Yeah.
is great, but I also
Yes,
know
when we
there's
did the
been like,
policy.
there's like, need to change the instructional minutes way
Yeah.
back when.
Yes.
Accommodate instruction time, which bumped, I know it's a matrix.
Yeah.
And that's why we're 184 days, multiple 180.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys had the 4 extra days in that calendar because of the instructional minute. Before, the day was shorter.
We were low as a.
So that's why there's that 180.
You know, as a school,
and
we
not
had low and
180.
starting.
Like typical.
So we went, negotiation, right, we expanded the number of school days on the contract, and they agreed, we got a raise and whatever, but it was, instructional minutes compared to other people, other small schools like this were low. And again, it's how you count those instructional minutes, how you count the walking minutes, how you count the process, you know, it's all meetings. So that's why we have 184 permits up to where other schools were charging those parts. And stuff, so.
So Amy, when we were discussing, I think we were looking into this a little bit, just how, you know, how it currently looks from maybe a elementary school perspective versus a junior high perspective of how much they're getting, and if you just give us a quick update on what that looks like on.
So elementary, so pre-K, there's all different regulations for pre-K and it's set through NIAC and through the Office of Early Childhood. So we have to have certain things through them. So they're kind of separate. They don't fall under this.
No.
They have to do like 20 minutes of this, maybe 30 minutes of this, and it's very compressed in the short. So they have that piece. K through 4 has 30 minutes lunch, 30 minutes recess. Your teachers are for contract get a 30-minute duty-free lunch. So kids have a 30-minute lunch. The people who supervise them in the cafeteria, so the teachers can go have their own lunch. And then those teachers go outside for 30 minutes with their kids for recess. When they move to middle school, they have probably, I would say about 50-minute block, 55-minute block. It just depends when they leave and come back. Their teachers have a 30-minute lunch, but those kids go outside for 20-25. They come back in for another 20-25. The teachers fill in the blanks of that. So just how we stagger English teachers in 30, and then middle school gets their time inside and 10 months. The way the middle school blocking works, 7-8 has to piggyback 5-6 in the same block, because that's how they stay on the same 4 periods a day. So they can't just, 5-6 can't just randomly go at any time to lunch. They have to go piggyback to another block for 7-8. So, it's complicated because you're sharing staff, you're sharing specials, you're sharing lunch staff across the board. So that's why they have to piggyback in the amount of time that they have for the lunch and recess.
So they're pumping 60 almost, lunch and recess.
So I would say really more like 50 by the time
Yeah.
they're.
So
in,
our goal is 60 and
but that's lunch and recess combined.
yeah.
That blocking period.
I think
Lunch.
Sarah wants to try to say something. I don't know if she's gonna, Sarah, if you want to try to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me, Dee Dee?
Yep.
Hi,
Yeah.
Sarah.
Hey, everyone. How are you? Yeah, I think maybe, Amy, one of the things that, at least for me, might be helpful point of clarification, I think you guys were just starting to talk about this, is as I look at the policy and, I think some of the discussion last time was, as we were talking about the working towards 60 minutes, it seemed like with everything that even was being counted, whether it was like the small percentage of kids who walk to school, the time in between walking in the hallway, gym, recess every day, it still didn't feel like working towards 60 minutes of physical activity daily for students was an achievable goal.
It's probably not, physical activity like we're thinking. To be honest, I'd have to go back and look at the wellness committee requirements. So, the problem is if you're giving up a lot of time for physical activity, you're giving up academic. So that's the hard part. If people are thinking, well, we should have more physical activity, we should have another special, we should do those things. That's not possible when you share staff pre-K to 8. I'd have to really look at what did the wellness policy insist we have in it, working towards 60 minutes. I know that there are teachers who will go out, who will walk, who will, go out for snack, like I said, and those types of things. And I think that's dependent upon the teacher, in the time frame of when kids are in their classroom, et cetera.
Well, I guess that was one of my questions was, because I know there are teachers that choose to do a class outside and stuff like that. Is there the ability to try to, like, I guess, require like once a week when weather permits that teachers do some, maybe it's class out on the pavilion, maybe it's something. Instead of that being voluntary, can we, how disruptive would it be to kind of set some parameters that, once a week or twice a month or something like that, we want them.
I mean, that's up to the board. I mean, my suggestion would be, everybody runs their classroom the way they run their classroom. And some people are, happy to go outside and do that. Other people like the stuff that's in their classroom and that's how they. My suggestion would be is that, I can go back to the teaching staff and say, the board would like to see an increase in physical activity and how you're fitting that in your classroom. I mean, there's time, a lot of teachers use Go Noodle, a lot of teachers do that in their classroom. So those are other opportunities that they're getting movement and exercise.
Sometimes even they'll do like a quick, like 3-minute, like maintenance come home and like they use the YouTube.
Yeah.
Kids are jumping, so I know they're doing things to get like the wiggles out, right?
Right.
And things like that, but maybe if we just collectively.
And so there's a difference though, by going outside and having a lesson and being physically active. So,
Yeah,
so
we're more active outside.
are we talking about, really are we zoning in on, we want teachers to be physically active with kids, or we just want them to be outside? So I think that's really,
Yeah, I mean, when
you
I
know.
think of wellness, I think of both both either and or, right? I mean, it's, to me anyway, right? It's the outside has the value, but the physical activity also has the value. I think when you go outside, the physical activity tends to come with it, right? Because you're
Right.
walking out.
right, yeah.
They're kind of, but also we live in New England, so it's not feasible to
Yeah,
always go outside, right? So it's trying to encourage it, but also not to a detriment that we're making it impossible.
and I think like our younger school, definitely, they'll go outside more, especially if the weather is better, they'll go outside, there's gonna go outside, in the beginning and the end of the last time in class. It's just different in middle school, and we are unique, we are in an elementary building, but typical middle schools don't have
Wouldn't even.
recess, so it makes it hard to fit them in somewhere, You just need a daily fire drill.
I'm following on you, Kate.
Just because we need to speak one at a time for audience members so they can hear, I also want to address and finish maybe Sarah's comment, because I didn't want to leave her on the line there just hanging. Sarah, I heard your question, and I think that's a pretty simple, valid one. Is the goal achievable when we write 60 minutes, or there might be some prescriptive things we need to, so that's what we're gonna check with the wellness policy.
That's what I'm wondering.
We got.
Yeah.
6
We don't want to exclude ourselves from grants.
Right, so if that's the case, then we're gonna review that, but Sarah, is that what you were asking?
Yeah, thanks, Kate. I was gonna chime in again because I didn't feel like we had answered the question. I think really my point is on this, like, if 60 isn't achievable, can we just put in what is achievable for most students, most days of the week? If we have a requirement that we have to hit 60 minutes, then I think that's a different discussion as it relates to what it means for instructional time and a whole slew of other things. But I think my request on this policy is that we reflect what is, an accurate and true statement for the majority of kids, realizing that yes, we can count a lot of things, but when a small percentage of our kids actually walk to school, it just feels disingenuous to me to say we're counting those minutes for all students. So I think, I think that would just be my request to go back, is to understand what exactly are the requirements that we have to have, and an overview of that before we put something in a policy that we know we can't achieve.
This policy was voted on and approved by you 2 years ago. I just wanted to make everybody on this, we did this in June of 22. Everybody on the board was here then and approved it.
Valid, I know we look at it, or we have to because of the wellness policy being a.
Yeah, we gotta make sure we don't lose $100,000 over this.
Right. So I think that's fair. I'm glad we clarified some of the questions from last meeting, and we've got our marching orders on just tying it back to ensure that our wellness policy is in line, with what, you know, is regulated in this. I did want to make note about, where I saw the road safety, which I thought was interesting.
It was in the bonus document.
It was.
Correct?
Yeah.
Sorry, it's on, there's a lot of pages on this one. A lot of repetitive things too. I'm kind of ashamed of our regulatory, duplicity.
You're right.
We did have a smaller policy, and the state came back and wanted this word for word. You know, it expanded it by like 5 pages from what we had.
Yeah, just safe routes to school when appropriate.
What is it?
When appropriate, the district shall work together with local public works, public safety, and or police departments to make it safer and easier for students to walk and bike to school.
Where is that?
This is
On
called
the
Q.
Huge?
Yeah.
It's just a one-liner.
Yeah.
Not much extra verbiage there.
So it's in the regulation.
But yeah, if you want to take note of that, Edie, for our backup.
Okay, yeah. Makes sense.
And there might be something in our wellness policy that actually does it as well. There it is. Nugget. Okay, so I think unless there's more discussion on this, like there's so many layers of it. Are we okay to move on to leave it for third reading once we have other confirmation? Okay.
And then a survey of students will be stable. We haven't had a chance to be on them.
Right, so survey of students is 6162 spot 51. Again, it's not.
I compared that one with CABE, and there was one of the forms I just added into the policy. It was just information, it was just a sentence. It's not really even a form, so it should have been in the policy. And then there's CABE didn't have, like, there was 2 forms that was really confusing on whether to consent or not. And so CABE didn't even have those. So I had just pulled those and we just had the one form to simplify.
Okay.
Because everything that's in the policy, you know, the forms are,
We very well be able to remove all physical activity referrals.
Okay.
but you're
So
welcome
we'll
to
take a
table,
look at
that's
it
fine.
too, just yet, but thank you for doing
Yep,
that work.
I'm just
Edie, 'cause I think
explaining
it-
the change from last time.
Right, so we had a bunch of forms last time, and this is consolidated, and
Oh,
we need-
okay.
if we need to re-refer,
Yeah,
but this,
okay.
you did a lot of the legwork, so thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, so we will table that for a final, hopefully final reading, for the next meeting. And then we can move on to new business. How do you like that?
Mhm.
What is this now? Okay, so policy 6172, the first reading on homeschooling.
The biggest change was at the end that CABE was recommending to state that homeschooled children who aren't registered in our district, that they don't take part in school activities or sports, and they're not provided special education or related services. Because that wording wasn't included in schools' policies.
Right.
So why can they not be part of sport? I'm just gonna ask that, like, it can be registered in terms
The,
of.
it was more so about the special education and related services, I think. But I think that school district can decide. As far as,
Schools, homeschooling, yeah, they do.
They
participate
participate
in
in
sports,
sports,
I mean, you can remove that particular wording if you want to ever allow that.
I'm just
Yeah.
curious what the thought process was. I
Yeah.
mean, the kids are, a part of a homeschooling.
I mean, would they, yeah, but would you need to have registration paperwork and
Yeah, I
information
think
on
that's, I
that?
was gonna say, what's that registration
You would need to have a physical, you would need to have
That means that-
all the
All
immunizations,
those
things would be, you'd have to have like you
Yeah.
registered for your homeschool.
Well, that's,
Yes.
so that's the thing is, right, is
You'd have to have all that.
you'd have to basically be registered but not going to school. Cause you need emergency contact and all of
Because
that,
we will be live.
correct?
They would have to.
And they
Like,
say
it doesn't.
homeschooling
They
is
do,
not
they
bad.
do. They're
It's
not
not
just.
bad.
Yeah, they can still.
Send it
It's-
on.
I mean, you could change the wording.
Are they registered? in-
Maybe they're registered.
We don't register them, they can have their.
They're not, but they still do like their paperwork and their, physical and all of that, and they're able to come play sports even though.
I mean, you could reword it if you wanted upon,
I'm just curious why, like, it just seems weird to me to,
How many, a lot of times when school is, are younger kids
Mhm,
more so,
mhm.
like before they.
Hit sports.
Students.
It's very true.
School. Well, I mean, we know of example.
Lots of teachers in there, aren't there supposed to be isn't there supposed to be a comma after children and after time? Regarding, if decisions are made by parents or guardians to return children, comma, who for a time, comma, have been educated.
Yeah.
For time of an educator.
No, it's like, I was like, no, you're spot on, I'm being wrong.
We were all trying to find where you were.
Being considered non-public school system, students in Connecticut is a formal term, that's the law.
I think this is, I think it's important to look at, especially post-COVID, because a lot of families were doing the homeschooling and finding the transition a lot more, gleaned a lot more information about what was lacking maybe in policy, so it makes sense. I think as a board, we could decide whether I feel that if we don't want to limit, people in our community from sports as
Sports.
long as they follow all the guidelines,
Could
it's
just.
up to the
remove that.
administration to determine what guidelines are, but we won't limit them. What do you
I
think?
would want to limit them,
You want to limit them?
yeah, I would.
but why?
Why? Because you have really no control over their behavior, over anything, they're not students in the school.
You do, because there's a level of behavior that they have to have in order to be a part of the sports team, or they're gonna be asked to leave.
Yeah, sportsmanship, I think they sign off on as well.
And they
Mhm.
have to do their,
I would be
Yeah.
against that we, as a state, we have not let them do it forever. And I don't think it's a good idea now, because most people homeschooling really aren't doing a very good job with their kids.
that's an assumption.
Unfortunately, most of us are not teachers,
Right. Well,
but yeah, when we go down, if people can vote.
I'm just thinking of. So this is a regulation,
Yeah,
regulatory language, though?
yeah.
It's a
This about
policy.
being non.
It's a
this-
policy.
This is a
Oh,
state.
it's not reg-
The
Yeah.
main
but they
thing
regulate
was about the special eds and
Yeah.
and related services. The old wording didn't say about not taking part in the sports and stuff, but I know some school districts probably do allow that.
Well, just look at Marine Science Magnet School, right? They don't have their own sports. Those kids that go to that school
Mhm.
are allowed to go back to whatever town they came from,
But
and they're allowed to play sports there. They are not a registered student of that school,
Mhm.
but they are still allowed to leave Marine Science Magnet School, the school they are registered at, and return to the town that they came from and play sports in that town. I see no difference between that and you're coming back and you're playing for a school that you don't belong to per se, and a student who's homeschooling being able to play for that school in that town that they live in as well.
those are registered public school students at Marine.
They're not registered in the town.
Now, neither is a person at Griswold.
With the sports with the high schools,
Yeah.
those cooperative
That's,
agreements.
it's their cooperative agreements in play.
So, that some schools don't have football teams and they have a cooperative agreement that's, approved by the boards of education, so.
I just don't think that a resident of our town should be excluded because they choose to homeschool their child. Their child shouldn't be excluded from participating in a sports team in the town that they are paying taxes in and they are residing in. Whether their child is registered for the school or not, they are still educating the child in what they feel is in the best interest of their child. I don't think that we should be able to exclude them. I think they should be able to participate.
One of
Do you want
the
to?
interesting ideas around that is that we don't have a fulsome rec program, and we have a rec program, which is where you would kind of say, well, this is their outlet. That's
I
a town.
guess my concern personally for a child that's not registered at school to be eligible to participate in our school sports is it makes Amy have to do the legwork of vetting, that it's not an out-of-town student. Like, if you have a child that's going to your school, she's already vetted that they're registered, to the town and all of that. And then, it does seem a little bit concerning. I mean, I know it's probably not a huge issue, but what's not to say that it couldn't be that, somebody from another town, right? It just puts that administrative burden on me. So that would
like some differences between earning grades and discipline and have an impact on whether a student in school plays sports. That's where I remember,
right,
the equity may be a little bit different. Where our
Right.
homeschool, and what do we base that?
I mean,
right.
it does say here that they are registering annually with superintendent, so I don't think that the idea of making sure that the student lives in town. If they're registering annually with the superintendent anyway to be able to
How
homeschool,
do we know they
then it
have,
should be vetted at that
But
point.
it's again, it's the vetting, like our, instead of like right, so the school, right, if there are certain requirements to participate in sports. She does not have access to that information, like she would a student that's here.
like
And
this
again,
seems
that's
to-
just my opinion, right, it's an additional administrative burden for Amy, that would be my concern.
how do we tell they're a C student? They don't do grades and homeschooling and
But
stuff.
that's not our issue.
Some do.
That is one of our issues, because we cut kids from our
Right, if we
team,
require it of our students, then
Students.
it's required of
Of
all.
them.
Mhm.
students that cut if they don't have that C average. And I think it opens a great deal of liability. Legally, if they get hurt or anything, why are they here?
Because our homeschooling policy allows them to be here, that's the
Yeah.
thing, I think
Because we
it's
took a
the
home
same
school.
liability that we would take for any other child that we have. I think it's,
Well, that's something else we should check with Irma about, if these kids would be either covered, because they're non-registered students.
I think it's something, maybe my tabling option of like, pause and think about this is I don't know enough about what our homeschooling policy is, and I mean, I know we have one and there's some of that to it. But I kind of welcome anything we have on.
Maybe we should look at some surrounding towns.
Yeah.
What is Griswold do, and what is
Right.
Sterling, what is big?
Especially bigger populations where it might be much, they might see it, they might have different.
I mean, we don't have many.
Right. Right, because this isn't our only policy on,
No, there's a whole series on homeschooling, because,
Oh,
well, there's like
it's not many. This
an
is,
additional paper that they fill out.
that's attached to this, the
And then
notice of
we can do that.
intent. That's all it is.
Yeah.
school at home.
This is it.
This is it.
Yeah, so they have, they like fill that out, supply that every year.
And they have to turn a paper in, one piece of paper at least a year. That's it. And, I think we definitely have to check with Irma and see if we would be covered in sports with their child.
Right, okay, other schools are not.
They are taxpayers. Just saying.
Yeah, understood, but
There's a lot of things
Sure.
to consider. I'm not.
Yeah, I think it's fair, I think these are fair questions.
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, I think they're transparent, but they're also opting out
Out.
of
Mhm.
public education,
Mhm.
right? So, and there are certain benefits that come with public education, so
Right.
it's just that
Yep.
kind of back and forth.
Mhm.
Mm.
Okay, table.
One is tuition at a high school.
Oh,
Maybe. Okay, we are, ready to personnel.
We'll,
thoughts.
we'll run this by through with the other thing from personal experience. If I have a program and I have a child that I'm meeting for the first time and don't know anything about, it's not a person that's part of the school, not registered, then you have to take time to look and to find out who the person is and what their needs are and how they can best fit into the program. And I realize that homeschooling is an option for people, but to have a student show up without the time spent learning what that student's needs are, I have concerns.
Thank you for your thoughts.
And I'm only speaking from personal experience, having met students for the first time. And then they're entering into our program with our rules, with our regulations, and the systems that we've developed.
Welcome to every year coaching a new soccer team. At the rec.
The other thing is that there are rec there are
Yeah,
rec programs
Correct.
in communities, and there are needs to be met. But I would be concerned sometimes about putting a coach in a situation just like I mentioned.
Item number 2 is personnel. We have. a
Yeah,
letter
we
of
just have a
resignation.
resignation, Catherine Brown, just
Okay, so we have received our letter from Catherine Brown for resignation as a paraeducator. We have do we have a motion to accept the resignation? Yes, do we have a motion to accept the resignation?
Motion.
All in favor, with regret? You. Behind,
With regret.
here. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Your time and effort here.
Was she full-time?
You know, so. and-
28.5.
Huh?
28.5.
You know,
Are we replacing?
those- that's just informing the board about the 403B program. And then I'm going to move on to the next one.
Sure.
Yeah, indoor air quality annual checklist. I just gave you a complete summary of what happens. On December 21st, we received a notice that we're required to have checklists for indoor air quality tools for schools. There's 6 of them, and then we're supposed to have technicians, certified technicians, evaluate our HVAC system. So the notice came in from the state on December 21st, and we're supposed to implement this January 1st. Brian and I have been working on this, but if you look back in the minutes of the board meeting in the consent agenda, all of the indoor air quality priorities are published and given to the board every single month. We will go through, we will complete the checklist, we will post them on our website. And one of the things that we're looking at is, are the technicians that come in to service our systems certified, and does that count? Or do we have to hire a special hygienist, industrial technician to come in to certify the work of our certified technicians? So there's things that need to be answered, but the certified technician thing is once every 5 years. But I will tell you this, when I first came to Voluntown, I had a highly qualified technician known throughout the state come in, and he went through the whole school. And he gave us 2 projects to complete, and we completed them that summer. One was the elimination of plyboard in the basement and the walls of a storage area. And the other was just replacing a pipe. And out of the whole school, he went through the blueprints and everything, and Ricard was impressed with the specifics that this person had. Now, if you look back at every single board meeting, there's indoor air quality, tools for schools, safety reports. And as we go through these, we will wind up, I think, meeting the requirements. Now, I have another report. Kerma each year does a safety inspection, and they just gave us 44 pages of pictures of things that they would recommend that we take care of it. Most of it is dealing with extension cords and electrical outlets. And we're putting together a plan to go ahead and to deal with that. But this is for information purposes only. I believe that we are going to meet the requirements of this new legislation. And who knows, we might even have our checklist up before anybody else. So this is just, Brian Callio and myself. Yeah, he's our maintenance director. You can see, it just states, do you do this? Do you do that? It's the same thing as our all hazard plan. We're supposed to do a safety inspection, and we go through that and we do a checklist. Yes, we observed this. No, we didn't. And it's kind of like a self-checklist.
Yeah, the only thing I saw when I looked at it was they include food service to the checklist, so it's just a little bit overlapping with, Brian oversees pretty much everything anyway, and he has access to this stuff, so he could easily be the point person. But that would be the only area that he's not like, we might have to, relay with Tom, yeah. So, thank you, Adam. For upcoming meetings, we do, for your calendars, hopefully you did get a chance to see this, but we are going to have a special Board of Ed meeting this January. At the end on the 25th. It's our kind of saved secondary meeting for anytime we need to do it, but are we calling it a special meeting or are we calling it just another
No, it's a special meeting, and we have an agenda already developed, and Dan Murphy, our legal attorney, has approved the special agenda and general overview of board responsibility, bylaws, and other types of hot topics. And then executive session would be anticipated for discussion regarding negotiation of teacher contracts for 24-25, and Dan will have some information from that. And then when the negotiating committee meets with him, the upcoming school year, we would already done some preparation. We don't need an executive session for this meeting, Kate.
for today's meeting.
No, we don't need an executive session.
Excellent. Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn? Motion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
At 9:01.
9:01. Thank you very much for, even though we did have a fulsome budget conversation.
Something that I picked up when I went to the PACE conference was that,